Hello, Internet. Today we're joined by Soren and our lovely caster Shoops, and we are going to be uh, watching Optimal Esports versus Elysium Gaming. And our, well, at least my predictions for this series to go is I think Optimal will probably be taking it just because I know most of the players on Optimal. But I do think that Elysium does have a chance, specifically through the bot lane. I think Elysium's bot lane is a little bit better, and we're actually seeing a new AD carry come in from Optimal themselves. I don't know what you think about that, Soren, but
Well, I agree. I do think most of the action we're going to be seeing today is going to be in the bot lane. Right now, actually, Vortex is one of the highest, KP ADCs in the league right now with 69, 41 kills to their name just in the 2 weeks that they've played so far. However, they're going to be going up against a really strong opponent in 1E who also has an 83% kill percentage. So I think we're going to see a very big heavy hitter game in the bot lane.
yeah, and I think that this game is also really going to be dictated off of whether or not Hunter can really find something in the jungle for his bot lane, because that is something that he really did struggle with last night uh, against ID Toxin, and if he can do it against Elysium today, I think that's probably going to spell just a win from his team because I think both Elsa and Art not Art, Epi are very good at stonewalling their laners or just creating their own advantages.
Absolutely, and they're gonna have to create advantages early. Both of these teams actually seem to be very heavy leans into mid-game pressure. Both of them, looking at the statistics, both are only really averaging 4 kills by 15 minutes, but it spikes within the next 10 by 25. Both of them are spiking upwards towards, sorry, I'm losing the stats in front of me. Almost 14 to 15 kills. So they're gonna have to get those advantages early. They're gonna have to play a little bit aggressive, and I do think that's maybe where Elysium Frost will push ahead, seeing as they have so far have 100% first blood percentages in all their games. So it's gonna come down to I think early game, but the mid game is gonna decide it.
Yeah, and I think the name of the game for a lot of these novice teams is actually just playing off of the objective timers. A lot of platinum level games are actually decided at these objective fights pretty much always, and if you basically have the better front to back comp, or you're better at playing your style than the enemy is at playing your style, it's probably going to be a lot more favored towards you, especially if you get the first or second dragon.
Absolutely. But as we wait to get agent select here, I'm going to ask, what do you think is going to be the priority here for this agent select? Because I know we were talking a little bit before in the pregame lobby, but what lanes do you think? Because obviously we were talking about how, bot lane's probably going to be the heavy hitters in terms of kills, but where's the priority going to be for agent select?
I think Hunter, Optimal Jungler, is going to put a lot of priority on the Hecarim this series. I do think that he's playing against a much worse counterpart in the jungle, and I think he's going to just look to pick his best champion and look to abuse his counterpart as much as he possibly can. And I also think that he could also look for Sejuani this series just to take it away so that there's something that enemy jungle can fall back on. But I mean, beyond that, I would assume that there's going to be a lot of Xayah prio this series. I don't know if either team plays it, but Xayah Rakan is probably the strongest bot lane in the game right now. So it'll be interesting to see whichever team picks it up.
Absolutely, and it does look like we are going to be starting underway. We're starting with a little bit of ban prio up on top lane as Fiora is immediately going to get banned away. Just because we're going through the ban phases, what are you expecting here overall? Let's get some predictions for map count. What do you think?
I definitely think that Optimal will probably 2-0 this, but I think there's a chance that Optimal could just mess up and drop Elysium a game to Elysium.
Absolutely. I do agree. I do think Optimal will probably come out on top, especially with such a heavy hitting ADC. But it's going to come down on pretty late. I think it's going to be a 2-1. And I know you were talking about it earlier. Zaya immediately getting banned, first ban coming out from Elysium. What other options now is there really left if that's no longer the first pick, do you think?
Ultimo could look to first pick the Caitlyn and look to just play full bot lane prio and stack dragons. They could also look for Varus, but I think Varus, there are answers that have been found to Varus, so it might be a little bit tough to just straight up blind it. They missed the ban on Elysium. We're just gonna wait a second to see what it actually is.
Yeah, it looks like it might have been a little bit of a technical issue, possibly.
Oh wait, they might have lost bans actually because they might be using an E sub.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. But it looks like we are seeing actually some pretty stereotypical bans. I'm seeing the Maokai get banned away, only being able to be played in one game so far in this split, as it's been pretty much perma banned from anyone's composition. So not surprised. I am quite excited to see what we get for support because didn't really get to mention it in pregame, but I believe it's Avalict, the support for Elysium Frost actually has their highest kill percentage in the entire team for them, and one of the highest among supports at 78 assists for them across the games so far. So I am excited to see what they pick up. Maybe a bit of a playmaking support, Hecarim. So I'm pretty sure that's pretty lock-in jungle pick coming out from Optimal there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was expecting from Hunter. And Vi is actually probably the best response in the Heck Room right now. Other than Vi, I would put probably like Remus, Poppy, or you could even play harder scalers into it, like Graves or Kane. But I think Vi is just the safest option because if Heckram's gonna dive your backline, you can dive his backline and do exactly what he is doing to you. So actually, like the pickup here, and we see another Varus coming out, and I think this is probably the best line you can go for, other than the Caitlyn takeaway. And now that Varus is locked in, I'm kind of expecting Optimal to go towards like an Ezreal or a Twitch maybe. I personally don't like drafting Caitlyn into Varus because Poke Varus, I think, actually just wins that matchup straight up, but I could be completely incorrect. We see Olaf being hovered here. I actually really like the Olaf pick to just completely ignore the Fi and the Varus and just go straight front to back.
Man, yeah, no, definitely some very interesting picks. Don't think I fully expected that Olaf pick there. I was really expecting some bot prio, especially as the Varus was picked up. And again, I'm really interested to see what we're going to be getting for the support. We are seeing the Tristana get picked up, so pretty aggressive laner coming out from Optimal as well. Looks like some pretty heavy hitting agents so far.
Yeah, and Ultimo is just looking to pick all of these champions that are basically designed to roll over their lanes. So, what I'm expecting them to really do is to just win their lanes and then play off of just like pure player gap, basically, this game, based off of these first three picks. And we see the Galio come out mid. I'm not too sure that I like blind Galio, especially when Tristana can be a flex and already beats the
Yeah.
Galio. I don't know what the idea with the pick is here, but maybe they're looking for like an R4 Camille into this Olaf, which still I don't even think is that great for the Camille side. So it'll be interesting to see what this Galio ends up doing because I don't think it's very good right now in the state of the draft.
Yeah, and we're already seeing Elysium come through, noting that Optimal hasn't picked support yet. It looks like they're going to be prioritizing, whittling down the numbers of choices that Optimal's going to get. Nautilus is going to be taken almost immediately out of the pool. I think it's
I'd really
pretty
like to see an Alistar or a Leona ban
cool.
from Elysium side, just to kind of stunt the Tristana lane just a little bit. You can still go for the things like the Pike, Thresh, Blitzcrank, or like even like Taric or something with the Tristana to play to win lane. But just getting rid of another engaged tank that maybe optimal support actually plays would probably be the best case scenario for them. So We'll see what they end up doing, but I think that might be their best possible ban unless mid plays something incredibly crazy. Yeah, and there's a Leona
Yeah.
ban.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Like you said, take away those tanky engagement champions in the bot lane, which leaves a little bit of a tighter restriction on the support for optimal. Who do you think they could even pick up to pair? Oh, I guess, like you said, Tristana is a flex here, so they could just completely subvert the Tristana bot lane matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Optimal Spotling could even go something like Seraphine Swain, Son of Seraphine. They could go Alistar Triss and actually just pick up a control mage mid. And there's the Camille that I was expecting to come out when we saw Galio. It's a really telegraphed pick here. Again, I still don't really see what they're trying to do here, because normally when the Camille jumps in for at least the beginning portion of this game, she's going to be jumping in on the Olaf, and Olaf can just press the Ragnarok and just completely run out of it. So the combo is a little bit dead in the top side, and we see the Alistar come through, which means that the
Okay.
Tristana is most likely going bottom and not mid. So on B5, I'm expecting to see probably a control mage or some form of AP champion that can look to pressure and poke the Galio out of lane.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to come down to these final picks here, and as the teams are shaping out the compositions here, it looks like that's an interesting pick. Mordekaiser B5.
Okay, this is
That's
the Epi Champion's hidden pocket pick. Actually, he is known for the Mordekaiser mid. So this is I actually
okay.
really like this pick into Galio because it actually you can just R him and he does not get to press his R button. You just get to kill him for free in Death Realm. He can't really stop you from doing anything to him. So that's really good. And we see Renata pick come through, and again, it doesn't really do anything into this Olaf. So I'm assuming that the Olaf is going to be going to Elsa, and I think Elsa's just going to roll over this game if he gets an advantage in lane. He will just roll over every team fight. So my guns are shooting for OE right now. I don't think it's even close from
Hey.
draft.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that absolutely makes sense. I do think they are about to be getting in, but I mean, I know we were talking about bot lane matchup, but now with, the picks on through, what do you think? What's the matchup to be looking out for the rest of this game one?
I think the most entertaining matchup. I think there's two of them. I think the mid and the top matchup are probably going to be the most entertaining matchups. I think bot lane does have the potential to spiral out of control, but I think mid and top for optimal are probably their strongest roles, and they're going to just be looking to stomp their lane opponents with Hunter just running around, grabbing his CS, maybe looking for a gank here or there, and just completely prioritizing they're dragging the neutral objectives all around. I think optimal. The game is basically in optimal's hands with this draft. Like I said, I don't even think that it's a question uh, that Elysium will probably drop this game just based off of the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. And that would be the first loss for a game that Elysium has gotten so far. Currently, 100% win rate. And I do want to bring it up because I mentioned it. It's maybe not the biggest matter, but Optimal are on blue side. And actually, blue side is the only game they've dropped so far in this split. But if it comes out to what you're saying, they'll have an early lead and be looking to put the tied first place team back down among the mortals at second place.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what actually happens in this mid lane, because I'm actually just expecting Epi to straight up just win out. But if I can actually influence this matchup, it could go the way of the Galio and actually allow Galio to win bot lane as well, while tries to alleviate at least a little bit of pressure topside. And that's one way that Elysium could actually win this. So Optimal needs to be like kind of aware that Mordekaiser is going to be in kind of a still state early if Levi is hovering it.
Alrighty, I think they are picking up their champions now, and we are going to be heading into the game soon. I believe we are going to be taking a quick break before we get there for the spectator delay, so don't go anywhere. I think we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Hello, CCS viewers, and we are here with Optimal Esports versus Elysium Gaming. And it looks like we're just gonna get like a 5 point at the beginning of this game, which is pretty much what I expect. But Hunter Wolf Steel and Elsa are actually looking to get this ward down. I don't think anything's going to really happen. Once they do, there's the ward, and then we're all just gonna back out once everybody shows.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of damage being traded either way, but neither team really getting any advantage besides that ward coming up. Doesn't even look like red side is going to push through and get a ward of their own.
Yeah, I mean it's also tough because they only really saw top and jungle walk into their top side. So in the off chance that Alistar and Tristana are stacking a bush and only one person walks in solo, they could just explode because Tristana damage level 1 is pretty nutso. So we're just gonna see top side start from Hunter. We're probably gonna see bot side start here from Defy. And I actually think that Hunter's got the right idea this game. Leave this Olaf on his island and just make sure that your bot lane can get a lead, because if Tristana gets rolling, she can just roll over this game. Same thing with this Mordekaiser as well.
Absolutely. In top lane, looks like they're already getting into a little bit of a scuffle there. Trades coming out. Actually, it looks like both mid and top lanes are getting quite aggressive.
Yeah, and we're actually going to see Hunter Wolf Seal going for a full clear here. This is probably the best thing you can do on Hecarim. I expect this Vi to maybe do like a 4 camp into a top gank,
Oh,
depending on how push up this Olaf is. But this mid and top matchup, they're going to be looking to trade a ton. This Mordekaiser and this Olaf are looking to really like push the pace in their lanes and get prio in order to actually play for this Rift Herald. And we're gonna see a lot of trading bot side here too. And it looks like Elysium is actually getting the better of optimal spot lane right now.
oh yeah, that's a huge amount of damage coming out. I was gonna mention that both the top laners use pots, but down in bot lane, both ADC and support are under 50% health there on the side of optimal to start us off.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate mid that Epi missed that second Q. And we're actually going to see Vi going for a top gank here. She's wrapping around the Baron pit, and she's going to look on this Olaf. And he hasn't gotten his ward yet, so this might just be a kill because Olaf only has Ghost. So as long as she lands this Q, he could actually
Oh,
die here, and he actually manages to sidestep. So really well played from him. Oh, he actually might die to the Ignite W there? Nope, he definitely lives. Because Spectator pinned away.
yeah, unfortunate. Does barely survive that.
And we're going to see a gank bot.
Oh, that's huge. The ghost gets used to try to get the stun off, but it's not quite there. Hunter Wolf will get pushed back, and that's a huge airborne coming out. Vortex can't do anything about it. Will fall, and Bean Chillin will fall as well. That's a 2 kills on the bot lane for Optimal.
Yeah, and this is just really good awareness from Hunter to know how much his champion can actually do in this gank. Because if I was that Ekram and I go for that E and I see my Tristana get exhausted, I'm like, okay, peace out. This gank's over. I'm not staying. So really well played for him to know his champion's limits. And we're seeing Vi come back top here just to probably crash the wave. I don't think they're actually gonna dive the soul off, and she's just gonna back away. So we see Hunter actually gets his first reset off, which is really good because he's gonna be able to cycle his camps. And the sooner that this Hecarim hits 6, the sooner he is online for anything. And I do expect Hunter also to go for this dragon at probably around level 5, right after his chickens. Because this bot lane is going to have the push timer into their bot lane. But we're going to see gank mid here.
Ooh, Vi comes in, does find the key. That's some serious damage, but the shield is found, keeps them alive.
Yeah, and Vi actually had the flash for this, and Epi only had to burn Ghost. And his flash is still up, so he can just sit here and lane with this Galio pretty much for the rest of until level 6, and then he can just all in him with the flash R. So really well played from Epi to know that he doesn't have to blow his flash here.
Yeah, bot lane is getting a little bit scary here for Elysium as Tristana was able to back, and now ahead on farm also has the Noon Quiver and the boots picked up off the first back. And that's a huge in-game from coming out from MTAL. Vortex gets caught. That's some serious damage.
He's dead.
Up through. Barely staying alive, possibly. Nope, falls, and Bean Jillin falling yet again. There we go. Finds yet another double kill. That puts the Tristana 3-0-1.
Yeah, and this Tristana is online. She is probably going to base and have a pickaxe. And we're gonna see another scuffle topside, and I think this Vi actually just dead.
Yeah, Chihuahua falls there. The use of the Hecarim absolutely critical, pushes them back out. And this should be able to pretty much clear wave and get Pry up in top lane as well.
Yeah, so I think they're just gonna look to push this in, and Ebi's gonna push mid in, and then Hunter's gonna take his base, and he's probably just gonna run straight to Dragon because oh wait, no, they're going for a dive here.
Oh, Boogie finds some damage. Hunter does get the stun through, but it's not enough. Boogie's burning, but I don't think that'll be enough either. And despite having a 5-0 lead, they drop 2 kills in top lane. And that gives up a lot of jungle pressure as well.
Yeah, it does. It actually gives this Vi a timer to actually off of this bot lane push to go and hit the dragon. I don't imagine that they're actually going to look for it because the spot lane is just trying to like hold the wave in front of their turret for as long as possible because they are very behind. And just going back to the initiation in the bot fight, Tristana did get her bomb off, but she also got the leap onto both of them, which slowed the both of them. And that's what inevitably actually ended up killing the Renatas because she got double slowed by Tristana W. So,
Yeah, it does look.
and
Like
we're gonna see a gank bot as well.
Yeah, a lot of pressure being put bot, both junglers nearby, but the Hecarim, there we go, Vortex yet again knocked into the air. Can't really do anything about it as both teams look like they're setting up for Drake, and it might be yet another small scuffle here. Not quite, the Vi's able to get away.
Yeah, and once the Tristana actually has the wave push into the tower, they just get free reign of this dragon. Hunter's probably going to hit 6 off of his chickens here, and that's why he's going for them, just to guarantee this fight. And I don't believe that the Vi is actually going to have... Oh, no, she just rolled over to level 6 off of her blue. So both junglers are now level 6, and Epi has the prio in mid, so they are just going to look for this dragon, and Vi is forced to give it up, because both of her laners are pushed in. So really good awareness from Optimal to actually go for this dragon here.
Yeah, no, it's going to be huge first start because we did mention pre-game that, early game, this is going to be very important. Both of these teams play for that mid game, so getting the advantage early is going to be very key. And right now, 6-2 up plus a not a red dragon, an Infernal Drake. That's going to be huge, especially seeing as Tristana is already 4-0. But that's a huge engage coming out from the Camille as well. The Galio.
Oh my god, Olaf wins this.
Olaf finds it, but is doing enough damage. Gets a double kill off of it. And is he going to get a trip? How does he find 3 kills in the top lane? Olaf.
Yeah, and Elsa is him, ladies and gentlemen. He just got 3, man, and he does not care, man. He just dodges every skill shot except for the Camille E and just obliterates everybody, man. He is him.
Wow.
Somebody give that guy a contract.
I mean, I have been hearing whispers and rumors that Olaf might be strong, but that's insane. The health gain off of that fight. Finding 3 in the top lane, that takes them from 1-1-0 to 4-3. Meanwhile, on bot lane, that's a huge engage coming through. R2 Good does find a way of getting out of that tricky situation, but does do some serious damage and will take some serious damage in reply, and that will force them to back. Meanwhile, there's some counter jungling going on pretty early on as Hecarim takes the red.
Yeah, and now since Hecarim actually does take that red, he is probably going to actually have an XP lead here. Since Chihuahua only has his 2 bot camps up, he's going to roll over to level 7, but I actually think Hunter can roll over to level 8 here, off of just his full clear, because his chickens will most likely be up at the same time that he's going to be there, assuming that he does just go for a full clear and doesn't just go, like, Q camp into Rift Herald off of the Olaf push here.
Yeah, looks like the game state's in a pretty neutral position. Most of Optimal just getting back to lanes or just getting back to farming. Meanwhile, Elysium still trying to play catch up. I believe they're behind in every lane right now, even in CS. I think the closest one is mid, 84 to 76 CS so far. And it's going to be very tricky because, again, I keep saying it, but it's going to be a mid-game game. So they need to find a way to get back into this so they're not drastically behind in this one spot where they want to be strongest.
Yeah, and I actually want to see from Elsa specifically, just keep chucking axes at this Camille, and then once she's at half HP, just go and rip the Herald on your own while Hunter's influencing the spot lane, because it does look like Hunter is trying to reverse this clear, but He did a little bit incorrectly. He should have just did his blue and then ran down and cleared bot to top if he wanted to reverse this clear. But now his camps are going to be a little bit inverted, so it's gonna be a really weird timer to actually go for Rift, but it should be okay. Um, I do believe that Dragon is coming up in about a probably like a minute 30, 2 minutes, and they're probably just gonna look to stack dragons this game, and so will be their win con. So um it will be interesting to see how the next dragon fight goes, because the Vi does actually just have the potential to get the shutdowns on this Tristana and get herself a lead, and then get this under, and then probably just pull out of Hecarim completely.
Yeah, as well. That is actually going to be the first turret up in the top lane. I was going to mention now there's wards very deep into the red sign bot jungle, so it looks like Optimal are just taking so much space. They're just playing the game as they want to see it. There's really not much Elysium here can do so far in the current position besides just play reactive. And it does look like they are prepping to take Rift here in just a few moments.
Yeah, and we see Hecarim taking the Rift here. I'm expecting it to just go mid, because the Strasana Alistar combo should just be able to take the bot turret on their own once the enemy bot lane dies. Tristana does a ton of damage at level 9 to these turrets, and we actually see Elsa come down here for a dive, so...
Oh, here we go. That's a huge airborne, but the Galio ult is coming through. Vortex barely staying alive, will fall, not able to get the cash out. Though, there is one player on the side of
Olaf's
the
still
bot. No,
alive.
but it doesn't matter because it's Olaf, and Olaf's health gain is insane. Finds two in the bot lane. Hecarim here now. That should be a huge fear for him. Bin Chillin is going to fall. Canyon is only at half health. They still have three players here, excuse me, but not quite enough to go in one last time. But that is 3 kills in the bot lane. 12-3 is the kill count so far, and that sets him up for a pretty easy Drake.
Yeah, and we see Epi actually ulting the Camille here, and he's looking to get a solo kill. It'll be interesting to see if he actually gets it, because this is going to be close. I think Camille might actually just die here.
Yeah, I believe the shielding from the W off the Mordekaiser is just too much for the Camille to overpower. That will be another kill for in the last minute or so for Optimal here. That's also Drake. And Optimal, I know you said it was going to be a pretty one-sided affair, seeing as how, draft gapped Elysium seemed to be in draft, but I think maybe a rundown is almost a little bit too kind here, as this has been a one-team show so far.
Yeah, and it's a complete it's a complete nightmare across the map, honestly.
Yeah.
The only takeaway from this is that the Galio was actually able to live bot side because Hunter felt like saving his ultimate for next game, instead of just diving in with it. That's like the only thing that really went bad for Optimal there, is the Galio getting out, but it doesn't really matter because they didn't really drop anything. So
Yeah, it's looking a little bit scary. So now with, I believe that's 2 turrets. Yes, that's also the mid turret gone. I think we missed that. And the chaos of the fighting. That's probably on both top and mid. Elsa does get a little bit of damage off onto the Vars, but is able to back away pretty safely. Probably could go in on the 2 of them and find it perfectly fine. They will find the jungler trying to take the red. Is looking to take that duel, but will just settle for the red instead.
yeah, and also we'll just be able to take away this red, and then they'll look to just pressure mid and take this mid tier 2, and it's just going to completely open up the game. There's not going to be really anywhere for Elysium to hide. Yeah, if they're hiding under their turrets, they're just going to get run down by the Hecarim Olaf combo when both ghosts are up, and they'll just have to just really take it, because they are down 9 exactly 9k gold.
And here we go. Here's the massive push coming after mid. That is going to be tower as well. Looks like they're not going to be taking the fight quite yet. Though the Olaf does get caught in the pool, but doesn't really find anything. And now it looks like, Optimal are just going to back away. Not quite take the fight yet. But now that opens up turrets in base. Tier 2 has fallen in mid. And now Elysium, we're already on the back foot, but slowly falling backwards as this game is slowly getting closed out more and more by Optimal.
Yeah, and we're gonna see Rift Herald spawning in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and Dragon is going to be the same timer, so it'll be interesting to see which one Optimal prioritizes. Because as long as Elysium is at the other one on the exact timer that Optimal is on, whichever one they choose, they do actually get to trade and get a bounty. And that might be a little bit of a leeway back into this game, especially if Optimal does choose to go for the dragon. Because if they go for the dragon and Elysium gets Rift Herald, they get the 200 local gold, and they can actually break a tower and get another objective. So
And here, the pressure is up on top. It does look like maybe Rift Herald seems to be the pick of choice for Optimal, as they are putting some serious pressure up on top. That does now open up the base in both top and mid. Looks like, again, right now, Optimal are just less playing aggressively like we saw them earlier in the game, but more the picking apart approach, just finding one kill at a time, removing each piece of the puzzle. That will be a pretty big engage coming out from Hunter. Will take some serious damage, though, going down to half, but is still plenty fine, able to get out without hassle, especially with Epi there to support them. And they'll just start clearing ward, and it looks like they're just going to start whittling them down, and it looks like they start leaning towards this bot tier 2 turret.
yeah, and we actually this is interesting to see. I don't think anybody's actually gonna die here. It's actually interesting to see from the Varus. He actually is going for on hit this game, which I don't necessarily agree with because his entire team is building full damage, and I think he should have went poke. And we're gonna see an engage from Vi here with a Galio ulti on top.
Yeah, Vi having no flash, tactical flash a few seconds ago. That's a huge damage coming out all across the board. That's a 1-for-1 so far. Olaf doing some damage on being chilling. Meanwhile, Epi's hunting down Boogie. Boogie won't be able to get away. The gap closing potential of Mordekaiser finding it through. There's the airborne coming out in Vortex yet again. Can't get out of the sky so far this game. Meanwhile, Elsa's hunting down the Galio, and there's nothing they can do. That's a triple, and Being Chilling did fall there towards the beginning, so not quite an ace, but they do find all 5.
Yeah, and Elsa is just completely running the show and mopping the floor with Elysium here. He said, "You guys do not have an answer to my Olaf beats you in the draft," and they actually didn't. Like, he just blinded this, and there was literally no response. Like, I guess Boogie doesn't play any Olaf counters like the Kled or I actually don't know really what beats Olaf early game, but I would assume that Kled is probably just the best pick. So it's interesting to see that the Camille actually does come out, and it's not doing too well. So it'll be interesting to see in the next draft what they end up changing in order to actually beat this Olaf pick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have a feeling I know what their first bane is gonna be going into the next game, but I know we were talking about earlier, you know, which team Optimal is gonna prioritize and what Elysium is gonna prioritize, and it seems like it doesn't really matter what Elysium is gonna prioritize in terms of major objectives, because Optimal grabs both Rifty Falls as well as the third Drake, putting him at soul point, and Vi gets caught out. Chihuahua can't really do anything, just falls to the trio up on top lane. Meanwhile, Elsa, the one-man army, is marching on towards bot lane.
Yeah, and from here on out, it's just going to be like pretty much coasting from the side of Optimal. They have, I think this is like a 14k gold lead at sub 20 minutes. Like, it's just a complete blowout. They can do whatever they want in Elysium's faces.
Hunter taking a deep dive into the enemy base there, does get some serious damage taken. Meanwhile, Elsa gets trapped in on Boogie doing some serious damage, but it's Olaf, so it doesn't really matter. They're just going to be able to run at them. Elsa stays alive. Meanwhile, mid tier 3 turret is done. The base is open. They're doing damage to the inhibitor, but here's the big team fight. Hunter does get caught out, does fall. That is one going over to Elysium. This might be big for them, what they need to get back into the game. The Tristana falls, and now Vortex this week. Epi finds 1 kill, brings it back level. Chihuahua gets caught in a little bit of a weird position. Don't think they're going to be able to find a kill. They get banked out. They won't. Epi doing some serious damage, pulls through, does get pulled under turret, looking to find one. Grand Canyon falls. Epi, will they find them all? They will. That is going to be the ace, but it will come at an ace of their own, as only Elsa is standing at the very end, having fallen at the beginning of that fight. Chaos, but that's a 10 kill team fight right there.
Yeah, and
Whew.
we actually somehow actually see that Optimal is up gold after that team fight, despite giving over all of those shutdowns. And uh, it'll be interesting to see if they can actually shut down this Olaf again and actually get that gold onto the Camille or the Varus. They might actually have a chance of picking somebody off in a side lane and just farming up here, but I don't think it's very likely. And this Hunter guy just needs to start pressing his R in these team fights. Because he
Yeah,
is
actually,
saving it for next game. I
Hunter
have not seen him press it.
Hunter is just running. Boogie does get caught out. Will be banked out by the Renata, barely staying alive. The Camille finds, I believe, the shutdown as well, so that's going to be some significant gold. And now the payout for the Olaf shutdown is now down to 300. Still high, still 9-2-2, but it looks like their team is going to try to sneak a Baron in the meantime.
Yeah, and they should just get this Baron for free. Elysium's not going to make it there. And it is really good that Varus got that shutdown because if they, by some miracle, can actually peel this Varus in these team fights, he actually is going to deal a bit of damage now that he has finished Rage Blade. So,
Oh, Epi trying to battle the entire team. That's some serious damage. Tanking pretty much all of it. Does find one kill. The shield from the W is insane. There we go. The Renata ultimate does come through. Grand Canyon falls. So does Epi. So that's another, I think, 2 for 2. Boogie taking the trades with Art. Does get pushed away, but Art's going back in for the engage. Finds the kill. I believe that's 3 for 2 so far. Make it 4 as I believe Chihuahua falls as well. And now they're marching on towards Nexus. Hunter already at the Nexus turrets, halfway down, and it should just be the game.
yeah, and as I suspected, game one is going to go over to Optimal Esports. I think they basically just won this game in draft. There's not really a whole lot that they had to do in order to really win this game from like just after draft goes through because they just have such insane advantage with their champions. We do see that Elsa does actually have the most damage in the game. To be expected, he did 1v3 topside
Yeah.
on his own and just completely ran over the game once he had taken that lead. So I'm suspecting that there is going to be a little bit of an Olaf ban at the beginning of next draft.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that will probably be Elysium's one ban because they do only get 3 total bans and only one in the first phase. So it'll be interesting to see what next draft looks like, and I think we're actually going to go to break off of that. So we'll see you when we get back with the draft. Hello, CCS viewers. We're coming back with Game 2 draft again with Optimal Esports against Elysium Gaming. And Game 1 was just a complete blowout from Optimal. They did get pretty much Exodia draft, pretty much everything they wanted in that draft, and it'll be interesting to see how the draft goes this time. I am expecting a couple change-ups from the side of Elysium in order to actually be able to actually play the game against Optimal because it was not close. So I'd like to actually see a closer game too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do think they need to prioritize a few different things. I think lane pressure, we were talking about it a little bit in the break, but lane pressure, because it seemed like Elysium had absolutely no priority throughout the entirety of the game. Every single one of their lanes fell behind really, really early on. And despite a few bright points where they were able to, find maybe a double kill and maybe get or at least close the gap a little bit, they just were not able to. They were just steamrolled, especially by the Olaf. So I would not be surprised to see the Olaf ban come through here. And honestly, if it doesn't, I'd be very, very concerned.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Elysium does only get one ban, and it's gonna go towards the Tristana,
Okay.
um, which I actually kind of agree with. Tristana was also a problem bot side. Maybe if they can stem the bleeding bot side, the game is maybe a little bit more playable for them. And I do expect them to maybe pick a little bit more of a defensive bot lane because the Varus really did not work out, and there's like a ton of things that you can still play into it. And they are leaving B1 Xayah open in because they do only get one ban in the first phase due to an E-sub. So it will be interesting to see if Optimal actually does end up picking up the Xayah because I do think it is the best. Maybe it might be the best B1. I think Wukong, just as an overall meta pick, is probably the best B1. But specifically for Optimal, I think Hecarim is also a really good B1 for them. So it'll be interesting to see what they do end up B1ing.
Yeah, I do actually have a question. Do you think that Optimal really change up the game plan all that much? We're already seeing it's the exact same bans that we saw in game number one, and especially as how dominant that was in game one. Do you think they really? Oh, okay. Well, I think that answers the
No,
question pretty
no,
much.
that's the
The
answer.
exact
No.
same pick coming through.
No, and we're gonna see the Hecarim come through again, and this is just a Hunter Wolf Steel special. This is the champion that he's probably most comfortable on. He hasn't played much ranked this season, and the ranked he has played, it's just been basically limit testing his top lane performance on his account. But last season Hecarim is his most played, so it's to be expected that he does just pick this comfort champion to get through this game as fast as possible. So, and we're gonna see the Jarvan come through, which I think is like an okay answer. Um,
Yeah,
I don't really like this. I think Jarvan doesn't really do anything in the Hecarim. Like, sure, you like force him to ult
yeah,
out of your ulti, but like Hecarim just gets all of the positioning that he wants. So like, I think
yeah.
it's a little bit of a toss-up between these two junglers of who can get stuff done early. I think that's what it's really going to come down to. I don't think the jungle 1v1 really matters too much for the Jarvan side of things. And we're going to see Varus come out again, and I think this might just be a recipe for disaster. I think they should have just taken this Aya if they can play it, and played a lot more defensively bot side, and just try and let jungle influence the lane for them.
Yeah, I especially I'm a little bit confused about the Jarvan because it's good lockdown potential. Like you said, they're forced to ult out of it to get out of the cataclysm, excuse me. But I mean, I don't think Vi was a bad pick in the last game. I think Vi was actually one of the bright points of their team composition. Also a pretty good lockdown potential with the ultimate and the Q, and it was a big playmaker for them. So switching out Vi, who worked well, for a Jarvan who might work. I'm not sure, but we do see a little bit of a change up. That's a Draven Thresh bot lane, and that's also a bot lane Prio coming out from Optimal.
Yeah, seeing this Raven Thresh come out, it just means that enemy bot thinks that they're just like infinitely better than Elysium's bot, and we're gonna see the Terra come out from Elysium, and I actually really like this. It really sets them up to actually play for these really long team fights, and as long as they pick champions such as the Orianna that's about to get banned out, but just team fight mid and top and just play together, like they do have a pretty good chance of actually winning just off of Terrakar alone. Um, Yeah, like, yeah, I think they just
Okay.
fucking sack everything and just go straight team fight. I don't think it's even close.
Yeah, and we do see in the bands there. It seems like Elysium is a little bit traumatized, as that's the mid Mord get banned away, as well as the Olaf, which both make sense. They were the two highest damage dealers in the entire game, as they just kind of ran rampant. So not surprised at all to see them. Meanwhile, we have the Oriana, the Rumble get picked away by Optimal, and we're seeing the control mage Azir getting picked up.
Yeah, and I actually really like this pick with their comp. Gives them a ton more range, gives them a lot of poke, and it might actually give them mid lane prio, depending on what Optimal ends up picking, because Azir does have insanely long range and insanely long poke as well. So um, it'll be interesting to see what the response is from Optimal. And we do see a Kled, and I'm actually expecting Epi to take this Kled and put it mid into this Azir. I do think that it's maybe a favorable matchup for Gleb, especially with the R button, as you can't really stop him from doing anything. He does just get the knock up, and he can just dash behind his ear wall and play to one-shot him. But it will be interesting to see where it goes based off of this fifth pick. And we do see LeBlanc, so the Kled is 100% going top.
Okay, so we are seeing the two mages duke it out on mid. We're going to get the club top lane, which does leave Elysium with the top lane pick going into a counter. So as we're seeing this get rounded out, I know what we were talking about how game one was going to be a stomp back in draft, and that was predicted correctly. That was a pretty hefty stomp coming out from optimal game. I mean that's the Jack's pick. So now seeing the full team compositions. What are your expectations? What's the predictions?
I think Elysium has a better chance than what they did in the first game,
Okay.
but I definitely think that this is another comp where Optimal does get to dictate the pace of the game everywhere. Except for mid. Mid might be a toss-up. I'm not too knowledgeable on this matchup specifically, but I do think it's probably LeBlanc favored because he does just get to jump in, take free poke on the Asir, and then dart back to her clone, or her after image. Sorry. Um, but Azir, I think, should have prio in this lane for the first little bit, so it'll be interesting to see how Jarvan actually ends up using that mid prio. If Jarvan can actually find an early invade on Hecarim, it could be a little bit of a disaster, and it could just turn into a lane exploding. So we'll have to see what ends up happening. And we're about to just go into client draft. So what do you think is actually going to happen this game?
It's right. I'm interested in the mid lane matchup because, like you said, I do think Azir has lane prio, especially early on, because I do think the poking potential early into the game is much higher on Azir. But I do think once we get into the mid game, maybe when LeBlanc starts finishing out her first item, I think she's just gonna straight out damage Azir and still has a pretty good poke potential. Like you said, being able to just get in and get out really quickly. So I do think we're gonna see LeBlanc take the advantage mid. But I think if we go long, I think Azir will come out on top because Azir is an extremely strong champion in the current meta. So I'm excited to see the mid lane matchup, especially because both of these teams actually do go for a rather long time. I think both of them are averaging their games to right about like 35 to 40 minutes. So far in the split. Obviously, the last game was a little bit of uh, an outlier, but I'm excited because if this does end up being a little bit less of a stomp, but much more competitive match between these two teams, I think it can go late. And I think if it does, Elysium might just have a chance of pulling this and bringing it to a game three.
Yeah, and I actually do think that the longer this game goes, the better the chance is for Elysium, as long as they're not just giving Optimal the universe, like as long as they're not dropping a ton of kills and all of the objectives. Like if you're just dropping like the first three dragons and the first and maybe second Rift Herald, it's not like a huge deal. Like they might have a little bit more stats than you, but the scaling is on their side. Like
Yeah.
Kled scales like okay. Thresh is probably one of the better scaling supports in the game. But it's being matched by Taric scaling, and I think Taric scaling probably beats out the Thresh, and Draven doesn't have amazing scaling compared to an on-hit Varus. The
Yeah.
only outlier on Optimal's side in terms of scaling is the Hecarim, And this is actually a really good game to go the Duskblade build. I know that last game he did go for the Radiant Virtue, despite him being super feb. I do actually think that this is like probably the perfect game to go Duskblade Hecarim, because even if Jarvan ults the Hecarim in order to like get his ulti out, if Hecarim ults and insta kills the Varus, the Jax, or the Azir in at the beginning of a fight, and he gets that Duskblade proc and goes invisible, he gets free range to just go onto the back line and push whichever one it doesn't actually have Taric ult on them and is sitting beside Taric or whoever has it on them, and actually kill them as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Hunter Wolf actually builds this game, because it would be an insane game for the Duskblade Hecarim.
Yeah, and I do think Hecarim is kind of going to be the key to this entire matchup. I know I said mid lane is going to be a real big decider because if it goes late, but I do think Hecarim is going to be the key that unlocks that, if that makes sense. Because if Hecarim can get underway, they can find a kill early and they can just start causing havoc. I mean, we saw in the last game, it seemed like Hunter was everywhere on the map all at once, all the time. Hecarim has that key potential of being so fast that they can be everywhere all at once. So if they can get off early, they can find a few kills, put their lanes ahead early on. It can make mid game very easy, and if they can end it mid game, they can prevent it from going long thanks to Hecarim. It might be just a GG go next pretty much for Elysium. But I do agree. If they can keep the Hecarim in check, especially if they do go Duskblade, that becomes a serious problem for them. But if they can keep it in check, I think it's going to be a pretty entertaining game. Far less one-sided this time.
Yeah, and we actually do see Hunter in Twitch chat saying that he is not going Duskblade.
Oh,
So he's given us the same meal for dinner this game. He's probably going that Radiant Virtue build that he went last game. So there goes my theory crafting out of the window for this game. After all of that, what is actually your prediction? Which team do you think you have taking home this game? I'm going for Optimal. I want to know what you're going for before we get in game.
I'm always a fan of the underdogs. I'm always an underdog fan. So I'm gonna go for it to try to level it out. I'm gonna go for Elysium. I'm banking on a game 3. Heart says Elysium, brain is saying optimal, but I'm gonna go Elysium.
All right, and there you have it, folks. We're going to take it away to a break, and we will come back with the game after the spectator delay for competitive integrity.
watch me speak. About to take over your screen. Talking bulls in 93. Talking mom, I'm on TV. Y'all know all I do is me. All I do is me. Yo, sit back and watch me speak. Yo, sit back and all I know, my money green. About to snap and make a scene. My cup off and make this free. My cup off and make them scream. Go back off for TMZ. Yo, sit back and watch me speak. Yo, sit back and watch me speak. Yo, sit back and watch.
Hello, CCS fans and viewers. We are here for Game 2 of Optimal Esports versus Elysium Gaming, and we are going to see a stack at the beginning of this game instead of a 5-point from Elysium. This is a nice little change-up. They think that Optimal is going to invade, obviously, but Optimal is just going to go for this red buff ward. They're not going to go anywhere near bot side, and Elysium is going to get jibaited for the stack.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit unfortunate. It doesn't even look like Optimal are going to even try to push up any more aggressively, so it is just going to cost them a little bit of time. But pretty early on, it does look like we're going to see a very similar start coming out from Optimal. As kind of expected, the Hecarim's going to be starting up towards blue side, and it seems like, as opposed to last time, Jarvan's actually going to be starting up by red, so we're going to be finishing same side jungle this game too.
Yeah, and as to be expected, the difference is Jarvan is starting topside this game, so both junglers are playing for their bot lanes this game, which is interesting because I actually think that Kled wins the subside matchup early, especially since he took Ignite. So it's a little bit interesting to me that Jarvan's leaving him on an island, because the way the top lane went last time, I don't think that the Jags is going to get very much time to actually scale if Kled just gets to run the lane. And we are seeing the Azir champion do Azir things, and he is getting his prio just how he likes to. So the Jarvan can do whatever he wants, and it looks like he's going to go for a bot gank level 2 right after red buff.
Yeah. It does look like Jarvan slowly making their way down. It does look like he's going to cut off Art, just maybe. Mteto is going to be able to pull back.
Oh, he gets knocked up! He gets knocked
Oh,
up!
that's huge! That's airborne! Mtato does take a lot of damage, but will survive. Scraps left of health. Art is going to do some serious damage to him as they go, but everyone should stay alive. No trades coming out. Meanwhile, top does do some damage, and that is going to force blue side to pull back a little bit, and also Jarvan a little bit now behind in their own jungle, and they're actually getting counter jungled seemingly by Hunter.
Yeah, and I actually would have liked to see Elysium's bot lane just flash on the Thresh there. Regardless of if Draven is hitting you or not, it doesn't matter. Like, the Terra can just exhaust the Draven, and if he tries to run them down, he just gets the stun. It's a 3v1. What is the Draven gonna do, man? I would have really liked to see them flash for that first blood. It would have definitely been a change of pace for this game for the side of Elysium. And it's a little bit tragic that they didn't. But it's okay. They did get the Thresh's Flash, so maybe Jarvan reganks it and they kill him this time.
Yeah, I will say this is getting a little bit sketchy here for the jungler on the side of Elysium. Now almost 10 CS down early, and also Hunter in a really good position to catch Boogie off guard here. Won't be able to get the fear, will fall stunned, but it looks like they were going to go for it, but the jump comes out from the Jax, gets away safely, but that was a very tricky situation that easily could have been first blood over to Optimal early on.
Yeah, and I think Hunter misplayed it a little bit. I think he ghosting at the beginning is okay, but I think he also has to E. And when he goes for that initial Q, he should just keep walking behind the Jax in order to still get that pushback. Because even though he dodges the damage, he does still get the pushback. And we see Thresh get the hook here, and this could be big.
The engage comes through. Bean Chilling does get pulled back, does get put into a rough position, but they do find the one kill. Meanwhile, there was one more kill traded out. Vortex various damage, and Chihuahua coming in at the last second gets the 2. Bot lane falls. Meanwhile, up top, Scarlet's gone. Elsa has nowhere to run. Boogie runs through, not able to do enough. Does force them to back though, and that will be 2 kills on the bot lane, almost a third up on top. And that's now pretty good advantage going over towards Elysium. A much better start than what we saw in game 1.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a tragedy for the side of Optimal, but because Elsa does kind of get forced out, but he does get to pick up all this XP. It's not the end of the world. Unfortunately, Hunter does have to catch the bot wave as well, so Elsa is just going to stay here and catch all this XP and just lose the gold. But did get his cash out there, and he's only down 500 gold. But we're gonna see engage mid, and Azir has to flash. But he gets hooked right
Oh,
after
that's
too.
the
But I don't
hook
think it's
coming
gonna
through.
happen. I don't think it's gonna else is gonna happen there because he is too far under tower. But yeah, Durian isn't completely out of bot lane yet. He's only down 500 gold because of his cash out. So not the end of the world.
Yeah, now we're in a much more neutral game state here. Thresh gonna slowly make their way back down. I say neutral. Meanwhile, Art does get, slightly engaged in on. Doesn't really find anything, though. And it looks like there's a little bit of a prior towards bot lane here. Hunter's not spotted by any wards. I don't think they're
No, I do believe he was spotted by the Tribush ward. He did walk through it.
Oh, I didn't even notice our Tribush ward. Thank you. But that's just a little bit of prio. Don't know exactly where he went. But that is just going to be a more default. And it looks like they're going to be pushing this wave in.
Yeah, and I like to see this Varus push this 500 gold advantage to something bigger with the help of this Jarvan. Obviously, Jarvan is looking topside now to extend the lead that Boogie does have over Elsa right now, just off of that Elsa not being able to obtain any of the gold. Elsa is down roughly 400 gold, 350 gold. And if Elsa does go for a long trade here, he does run the risk of dying to the J4 EQ, but he does have flash up, so it's not the end of the world.
Hunter is also nearby in their topside jungle, might be able to cause an impact here. They're causing some serious damage on Boogie already. Scarlet does go missing. Both flashes get invested. Boogie running for their life. Meanwhile, Chihuahua is chasing.
No.
They know that Hunter's here. Hecarim comes in. I don't think finds it. Just barely misses it. But Elsa's going to go back in, see if maybe they can get the confidence to get Scarlet. That's a huge engage coming out from Chihuahua. Doesn't find the kill on Elsa. Elsa gets Scarlet back. It's a health gain coming back through again. Meanwhile, over on mid, there's some trades coming through top lane. They're pushing. Bot lane's also going in. It's a huge trade all around. Elsa finds one. Chihuahua is getting whittled down. Finds one before dying themselves. That's 2 for 1 up in top lane. Mid lane, one is forced to recall, but no deaths going through. Meanwhile, on bot lane, there's some serious trades coming out. Vortex looking like they're trying to find something. Not quite able to, though.
Yeah, and really well played from the side of Optimal to actually recognize that this dive is free, pretty much free for them, and also played it pretty much perfectly. We're going to see the Azir shuffle, and Epi is going to come out, but I think he's just dead. He took a second turn shot, so he's just dead.
Yeah, the Emperor's Divide perfectly placed, perfectly timed, pushing him right under turret, nowhere really to go, and that's actually going to be the first kill in mid lane, going over to the Azir, which was in a little bit of a rough position. That's a huge stun coming out, and Tato is barely surviving that, but that's a flash coming out to save their butt. Navarus almost securing the kill. Art too good. Now pushed under turret with a massive wave. Bean chilling, though, is very weak. They could possibly try to turn this, but neither junglers in place to help. Is going to be solely off the back.
Oh!
Talon
poke you and kill him.
Hunter as well, just whittling down Grand Canyon, not really able to do much besides put some pressure on. Boogie takes the engage onto Elsa. Scarlet almost gone. Boogie coming out massively on top there.
Yeah, and we did see the Varus pick up the kill on the Thresh with the poke you just before the camera panned away, and it's looking a little bit doomed bot side here. You picked the Ego Draven Thresh lane, and now the Draven's gonna get stunned up and die too.
That could be a kill. Vortex finds the kill. That puts Vortex, by the way, 4-0-0. We're seeing the exact opposite. Meanwhile, a fight starts over Rift Herald. Boogie finds a lot of damage coming out on Hunter Wolf, but here comes the Kled, here comes Epi, and Elsa finds the kill. So I believe that Rift Herald was picked up from Elysium, but it's not picked up after the kill. Jarvan looks like they're going to try to maybe steal it, but it's just being guarded by this top jungle team.
Yeah, and unfortunately Jarvan can't really go for that. I think he knows that they're both just camping it, so since the controller was in that top bush, it'll be interesting to see how Optimal ends up pulling this back. They're gonna have to pull it back through top jungle, because mid is down 300 gold due to a kill, and bot lane is up 1.4k, and it has mythic advantage right now, although Draven should be getting really close to that Essence Reaver, and once he does pick that up, it might be a closer 2v2 again.
Yeah, and speaking of items, that is actually going to be the first mythic getting picked up by Vortex. Excuse me, I almost called it a Bloodthirster, not quite. But that is the first mythic getting picked up by the Vars, 4-0, like I said, though is down in CS. And notably, I want to mention it here, despite being down on kills and maybe... Oh, that's another huge Emperor's Divide, but luckily the LeBlanc is able to come out. Apologize
So we're going to see the ghost from the Hecarim here.
Oh, that's a huge engage, though. That's a pretty good stun coming out from Tarek. Meanwhile, Mtato does get locked down. Cataclysm comes out, and Mtato just kind of has to stand there. Does not get stunned by the Turk, though, but does find the hook, but I don't think they can do anything off of it that is going to force them back. Meanwhile, the the dance in mid lane continues to go on as the Azir and the LeBlanc continue to just poke each other out. Actually,
Yeah, and we do see Boogie behind, and the LeBlanc jumped in, so she might just be dead here. There's a 3-man
Oh,
pincer.
yeah. Nowhere to go. Epi has nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and that will be yet another kill. 4-7 in favor of Elysium now. As Elysium seem to be a solid lead
Oh,
here.
and Hunter goes in with armor.
Oh, that will be that's a kill right there. It is. That's the shutdown as well coming out, but that will be Drake going over into their hands unless Hunter could do anything to steal us away.
And he's gonna look for it, but he gets ulted by the Varus.
Oh, there we go. Hunter can't really do anything. Will get burned down, but doesn't get killed. Being chilling, very barely alive. Will not be able to get away, but there's so much damage coming out. Another engage coming out from Hunter. Doesn't find the kill. That will be 2 for 1, I believe, in favor of Optimal Esports. So, not perfect, not great. I do believe they lost Drake there in that fight as well, but that does close the gap just slightly.
They did lose that dragon, but for losing that dragon, their prize was getting almost every single shutdown on the side of Elysium during that fight. We're gonna see a little scrap in the top lane here.
Elsa,
Clint should be safe because he still has flash. Yeah, okay, Clint should be safe because he still has flash. But the prize there is that the Varus and Draven deficit is not that big anymore because Draven did have an okay cash out there. I think it was about 300, 400 gold. And he also got the shutdown, which was another 400 gold. And we're going to see a double flash top. I think also just going to run this Jax down.
Seeing
and nothing's going to happen. So yeah, the deficit in bot is pretty much gone. It's only 200 gold towards the Varus now. So your lead in bot side is now gone, and the game is back to an even state completely.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I was going to say they had a little bit of advantage, but now it is almost too close to tell in terms of gold difference. Neither team having any advantage. Everyone's starting to get close to their Mythic still. Only Vortex has it up quite yet. And it looks like there's some posturing over towards bot lane. They're going to clear out some wards, get a little bit of control back into their own jungle. And it looks like the only other really aggressive position on the map is Hunter taking the red buff from this Jarvan, who might just run into him.
No, Jarvan's gonna see that his buff just got taken away on the map, and then Hunter's just gonna run towards, back towards mid, where it is safe. And yeah, we're just gonna go back to a neutral state. We do have Dragon spawning in 3 minutes, and Rift Herald in 1 minute and 20, so I do expect another scuffle on this Rift Herald. What I'd like to see from Optimal, honestly from both teams, not even just Optimal, is to tell these top laners to get out of top lane and go bot and rotate your bot lane up to this Herald and guarantee that you get the Herald, or at least a 4v4 fight. We're going to see the Clyde ulting out, but Jarvan does ult and R animation.
There we go. Boogie finds some damage as well, and they're just going to run him down. Elsa has so little health left, can't do enough. Boogie very, very low, but will be able to survive that. That's another kill up in top lane. Elysium slowly catching a lead, now about a little over 3/4K ahead now. And Rifty.
Yeah, and we're seeing Hunter actually on this bottom side. He's going to get spot out on this dive, but I don't think it's going to matter. This Tarek has to pop his R right now if they want to live.
There we go. That's so much damage coming on board.
There's already dead. The R is too late.
That falls, but that will be a trade out. Being chilling and their teammate is still alive. They will try to chase him down, but Epi
we see Epi
to assist. That's some serious damage. Being chilling down to half now, has to pull back a little bit. That's some serious damage coming out from the Azir, but that's still a 1-for-1 trade. And right now, 4 seconds, excuse me, till the Rift Herald is up. The jungler is in a prime position. Meanwhile, Hecarim is still down for another 5 seconds. This could be a pretty easy Rift Herald coming out for Elysium.
Yeah, and this is Jarvan's prize pretty much for this. As long as he doesn't take a ton of damage to Kled here, he should just EQ over this wall and then walk back around. But he is going to run into LeBlanc, but Hecarim will be here. So it's going to be a scrap. We have Tarek actually coming to this. So if they can stall for long enough or even get the fight afterwards, it's really good for them. But I don't think it's going to happen.
Ooh.
Everybody's just going to back away because everybody was too late. And it does go to the side of Optimal because the rotations were just late.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. Despite Jax having a pretty early lead, actually, I just noticed Jax has not gotten a kill yet in this game. Most of them have been going over to the Hecarim, so Kled is in an advantageous position, forcing them back away there. So really good play coming out from the top laner. And now we're back to another default position. We have the Drake coming up now in officially 30 seconds. It doesn't look like anyone's really posturing towards it. Boogie doing some damage up in top lane, probably just keeping Elsa back. But no one's really set up to take this Drake. It might be an all-out brawl.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Hunter is topside here, so they can't really look to attain vision on this dragon. But what I want to see personally from Elysium's side, in order to actually secure this dragon and get them stacking, is to actually push in this next spot wave and actually not have everybody here because the mid wave is even right now, and if they were to shove it. Which I hope this Jax is going to do once he walks there. If they were to shove it, they pretty much just get this dragon for free off of their own vision, but they're just giving up all the space. This dragon is free for Optimal. Elysium might be able to take the fight after, but it's just gone.
Yeah, Jarvan EQs over the wall to get away. This is a 5-man fight on either side. Hunter does get spotted, runs down Boogie. Boogie's able to jump over the wall, but does gets frightened. The walls drop as well for the change in the terrain. Vortex finds another Chihuahua, very quickly losing health, but the Emperor's Divide comes through to save him. No, Epi needs to get away, won't be able to. That's a double kill for the Azir, double kill for the Varus as well. That is so far a 4-for-1. Elsa running for the life, no Skarl to be found. And it looks like the stun barely not hitting, but will they chase it down? They'll do some damage, but I don't think they'll do it. They'll play it more passive, won't overextend. 4-for-1, they lose the Drake, but that's a huge advantage now their way. 31k as opposed to 28. That's a stun, but I don't think they can go off of it.
Yeah, I'm probably just going to pick up that wave of that. I think the main takeaway from this fight is we see at the beginning, Hunter actually does go super hard on this Jax, and he just holds the counter-strike the whole duration. And then they get a really, really big Terracar, so they don't actually get to deal damage, and then they get 3-man Cataclysm right after. So not only can they not deal damage, but they're all trapped and stuck, and they just committed way too many resources to getting on top of that Jax, and it honestly, if I'm being honest, this is Jax. Killing this Jax doesn't matter. You got to get on the Varus and the Azir. They have all of the gold that they need to die first. Leaving the Jax up is not a big deal, at least at the beginning of the fight.
Yeah, it was also very unfortunate that the walls dropped due to the terrain change there at that exact moment, because they were completely separated, the two teams, by that wall. But the moment I think the Cataclysm pretty much came through was once the walls dropped, opening up procedures and just forcing them to a really weird position. So overall, very unfortunate there, but it does look like it's going to be a 2-and-2 up on top. It looks like a double engage coming out from the side of Elysium, but that's some serious damage. The Draven ultimate comes through as well, does some serious damage. Boogie chasing him down, doesn't realize that the mid laner is there to assist.
Hunter doesn't have R here, so if he goes in, he's just going to die. They need to just back out of this fight and cut their losses, but we're going to see a TP come in from Elysium.
Oh, but Hunter's gonna go in anyway. Vortex finds one, is on a rampage now. Epi needs to get away, but is getting chased down. Vortex is still alive. They find a second triple kill from the Varus. Vortex 10-2-3 so far.
Yeah, and this is Vortex's legacy game right here. He's playing out of his mind this game. Besides that first death that he had, he is actually playing really insane. Into a lane that I don't think really favors the Varus. But as long as Optimal can't get to this Varus, they're just gonna like they just lose. Like they need to get on top of this Varus and this Azir in order to have any chance of winning a fight. Because they keep starting these engages on the Boogie, and Boogie is just sitting there laughing because he doesn't care if he's dead and the rest of his team's still alive. He's just laughing at you because he's winning the game. He's taking your LP. He's taking your spot in the standings.
Yeah, and we're seeing another more default position, but now Elysium has been taking both top and mid turrets and looking to take bot turret now. Are in a pretty good position to just keep pushing through.
Yeah, and the setup that I'd like to see here from the side of Elysium is, since they are up 4K gold, they should look to get vision and play for this Baron. They do have a ton of good ways to zone the side of Optimal, and if they commit too hard on one person, it might just be a complete doomer for Optimal into Baron, into Reset, into Dragon, into push mid, and end the game. Just do this ginormous gold lead on this Varus. This Varus himself is only up 1,000 gold compared to the Draven, but it's the scaling of the champion that really matters here. He's just getting a ton more DPS down due to both his range and what the champion does inherently.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see how these next couple fights play out and who actually ends up getting this dragon and this Baron, and it will dictate the rest of the game.
Yeah, Optimal seem like they're putting a lot more pressure up towards Baron right now. Meanwhile, there's still pings coming out from Elysium for this Drake, but it looks like they're going to try to take a massive team fight before. Cataclysm comes out, Chihuahua isolated though. The TP comes through as well. Hunter off to the side. Chihuahua a little bit in a rough position, but will be able to survive. A lot of damage being dealt to both teams. No one has fallen quite yet. Meanwhile, Elysium now making their way over to the Drake. Hunter's trying to find and engage in, but it's going to be a tricky situation.
Yeah, and what Hunter really needs to do right now is he needs to just press Ghost and E and push this Varus into his team.
Here
and
it goes.
Pray that the threshold comes.
No, the Emperor's Divide gets almost all of them, and they start getting whittled away. Elsa getting taken down. Boogie, though, gets traded out on.
And Vortex is still trucking along, playing front to back here. We're gonna see the Draven drop down, and Vortex is gonna go godlike. So that fight was just horrid once the Azir wall came down.
Yeah, no, it found a lot, but it was not quite enough. And that is going to be the Infernal Drake going over to Elysium, though I don't think they're able to pick up the Baron crate off of that after seeing how much damage everyone on their team took in that fight.
Yeah, and they're just gonna take this dragon and reset, buy more components, and then they can actually look to play this Baron side. Blue team is pinging it. Optimal is pinging that they could just be on it because they actually didn't really have any vision after the end of that fight. Their only vision was in that pixel and in the river at the very beginning of the river from mid, so they don't actually know if they reset or not. But yeah, Elysium is just gonna base, grab their components, and then look to probably play topside vision and see if they can catch someone out, and then get that Baron and end the game. I don't think this game ever goes to Dragon Soul if they keep fighting like this.
Yeah, and I'm actually really surprised to see this because we were talking about, early mid game. I think this was very clearly a game that we both put towards Optical, but if it went long, it was gonna be.
Yeah, we actually see Optimal hitting the Baron here.
Oh, they're gonna just
calling
take it.
Elysium's bluff.
They're doing some serious damage to it as well, already halfway through. They're putting Elysium on a timer. Boogie tries to find him, will get pulled. Epi will be able to get away. The Kled ultimate comes through. Boogie isolated, falls almost immediately. There is still a posturing from Elysium to come through. There's still a lot of damage being done by this Baron as well, and it looks like they might still try to go in on this.
Yeah, and the Boogie is the only one who died on the side of Elysium, and Elysium doesn't really care. Boogie's entire job is to just peel for this Varus, and as long as the Varus is alive, they can keep fighting because they do have the Azir poke, and they do have still insane engage from the Jarvan. So we're gonna see the Varus slowly come through onto Epi, and Epi's just dead.
Damage coming out from Vortex very clearly so far ahead. So much damage. Finds the one kill. Brings it to a 4v4. Meanwhile.
And then we're going to see Elysium actually start up this Baron. I do think that they just get this just because the side of Optimal doesn't really have anything, but Hunter could just ult in onto all of the carries here, and he's actually they're gonna ult the Draven, and there goes Hunter
there we
with
go.
Salty.
So much usage being done. Vortex being chased down, is being targeted, can't be found though. Vortex again ripping through them one by one, double kill going into their favor. I think that's actually a 2 for none there coming out from Elysium, as they should finally, after this like 2 to 3 minute skirmish, take the Baron. They got the Infernal, they get the Baron. And honestly, it's looking more and more like they're going to get game 2 here soon as well.
Yeah, and we're gonna see the replay come through here, and I actually think that this is like a very terrible setup from the side of Optimal. They should be looking from the bot side here so that they can actually like work up into them. When they're reverting to this choke, it gives Jarvan like an actual angle to zone off the other half of the team once he ults onto that Draven. And we did see Varys didn't actually get to eat that Terracar and get the invulnerability, so like there was a chance that Varys could die there if he played it improperly, but everybody ended up turning around and peeling him from Hunter, and he just didn't die, and that's all she wrote. Varys didn't die, fight is won on the side of Elysium. So we're gonna see Elysium pushing down mid now, and I think they just get to take this tier 3 for free with the Azir turret.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's really much Optimal can do in this position, though they are 4v5 right now. Epi tries to do some damage. That's a huge engage coming out from Hunter. Does a lot of damage, but takes a lot of damage. Will fall. Vortex finds another kill. Cataclysm comes out, gets 3 of them, but I don't think it's enough, though. And one by one, they fall. That's another double kill going over the Vortex as they're trying to find Elsa. And one by one, they get picked apart. They're going to find Inhib, they're going to find Turret, and soon they will find Nexus. That seems like game 2 done and wrapped here. We're going to
Yeah.
game.
And we're going to game 3, and Elysium played this game really, really well, despite me predicting that they were going to go and lose pretty much the entire early game based off of their comp. Really well adjusted comp from their side, despite me not exactly agreeing with it. Vortex specifically is like the MVP of this game, right? His entire team did everything is in their power to peel him, and he delivered. He did 30k damage. He's doubling the damage of Hunter Wolf, who was one of the main carriers of last game, and he just went absolutely bonkers. So my question to you is just what do you think that Optimal now has to change in their draft? Do you think they need to go for a different jungle pick? Do you think they just need to go harder front to back team fighting with something like an Ornn or a Malphite topside? What do you think they're going to change in order to actually take this game 3 away from the side of Elysium?
I think a very small issue that they ran into is they were putting a lot of priority up towards top side. There's a lot of ganks going towards top very early on. Meanwhile, they kind of left bot to starve at points. Meanwhile, the adjustments from Elysium put such a heavy emphasis on bot that Vortex very early on, I think they were 4-0 by I think like 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, it just puts Vortex in such a good position. I think they need to change up their picks. I don't mind Hecarim, but I think it's more of a matter of where they're prioritizing around the map and basically just trying to keep. It's almost to the point where I think if they keep the game at a neutral level, their lanes will win naturally. But if they allow, Elysium to put emphasis and allow their lanes to get ahead, even if it's just one, like we saw in that game, mid and top were really not in great spots. You kept saying Boogie really wasn't doing much. They were basically just keeping the gap open for Vortex to just pick them off one by one. If they give them the opportunity to allow one of their carries to get off and just get going early, I think they lose game 3. So they need to make those small adjustments.
Yeah, and I would like to see a little bit harder scaling from the side of Optimal. They, especially from the bot side, now that I'm looking at the draft again, the Draven was maybe a little bit too hard of a commitment that early in the draft. You really have to like hard stomp lane as Draven in order to win the game. And that's what I'd like to see adjusted, is maybe just pick up Desire Rakan there and actually play the front to back with Elysium that you know that you can do because you did it in the previous game. And with that, Optimal is going to take a blue side, and Elysium is going to take red side, and I think we are just going to go straight into draft. So let's go for that.
Yeah. See if I can get mine up and ready here. And I do want to ask you, simply because we're on the topic of what they should be picking. What are you expecting here? Because that wasn't exactly a stomp. I wouldn't call that a stomp anywhere near to the same degree that we saw in game number one. Do you think Optimal Gaming has to make massive adjustments, have to change the team composition around drastically, or do you think it's more of changing individual pieces?
Um, I think I think specifically just from Optimal side, they need to just um I think they just need to pick a scaling bot side, really, or something that is a little bit more consistent than the Draven. The Draven in and of itself was probably okay, just for that specific game. But what ended up happening is he didn't hard stomp the lane, so he has a lot tougher time in those team fights, and it just was a little bit tough playing not exactly 4v5 because Shurian was really doing his job the best he could, but sometimes the best you can do it just isn't good enough. So I just specifically would like to see from optimal side something a little bit more safer and maybe a little bit more scaly.
Yeah, no, I do think scaling was absolutely an issue. Looking at it, there are a few of the last champions who could do well in the later game, but I do think Elysium just far outscaled in that last game, and I do think it was much earlier than we were expecting. But because they were able to get the prio down on bot lane, I think it just kind of flooded them into their favor. But I think that there needs to be some serious adjustments to the team composition. I would like to see a little bit of a better late game carry rather than the Draven, which is a little bit more early game. I think they'll suffer more because it seems like Elysium is really favoring going or having these games go much later.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. We're just still waiting on Ultimate Esports side, so we are going to probably shoot it to a 1 or 2 minute break while we wait for Optimal Esports to uh, reset, refuel, and come back for the draft. So we'll see you once draft is ready to go live. Hello, CCS fans. This is the we're coming back with the draft for Ultimate Esports versus Elysium. And we are going to see the same Fiora ban, and we're going to see an Olaf ban. And I'm expecting the jungle to get B1'd again. I don't know how you feel about them changing anything, but the Tarek is going to get banned.
Yeah, I like the Tarek ban. It definitely did cause a lot of issues, and I do think that was actually a big reason why they were able to turn those fights. That stun coming out from the Tarek was so influential in so many of the team fights that we saw in the last game. I'm also not surprised to see the Olaf ban. I'm actually surprised we're seeing it first ban here, seeing as they got dominated by it in game one, but then chose to ban it in stage two of game two. So a little bit surprised to see it get banned first ban here rather than game two, but not surprised by it. The only real adjustment coming out from Optimal Esports is the Tarek ban. The other two, the Fiora and the Karma, have been pretty routine so far. And again, I agree. I do think we are going to be seeing a prio for the jungle here.
And the Karma is actually a Jax ban. They just, I guess, missed the champion that they actually wanted to ban.
Never mind, we're seeing the Jax ban, so Boogie is not gonna have the champion that that they played in the last one. So that is actually a top ban, so no Karma. So Karma is still up into the pool. And okay, I was just about to say I would not be surprised to see the jungle pick B1. I also would not be surprised to see the Hecarim get picked up, because despite the last game being a little bit iffy, Hecarim has still been a pretty bright spot for the entirety of this series so far.
Yeah, and the Hecarim coming through does mean that we are going to see 3 games of Hecarim, which is a little bit stale, but the Maokai is up this time, and I'm expecting to see pretty much a full tank Aftershock Maokai here. Maybe Phase Rush might be okay here into the Hecarim, just to maybe slow the Hecarim down in the team fights yet again, and be a good peeler so that Vortex can carry you to a 2-1 Dubski.
Yeah, I mean, Maokai is in a really good state in the current meta. I think it's the number one pick ban. I think both in pro play, amateur play, and in just ranked and competitive queue. The wise old tree has also been just a menace all around. So not surprised that we're seeing them get picked up now that they've been gone and left unbanned.
Yeah, and this Jax on Elysium's side is the Karma pick, since they did ban Karma and said it was Jax, and now on Elysium's side, the Jax is the Karma. Those 2 champions are reversed for this draft, I guess. We're going opposite day.
Okay.
But the Maokai is did get nerfed this patch, and the AP build is basically dead. So we're probably looking at a tank Maokai, maybe with the demonic, but most likely it is going to be more tankier Maokai just to play peel front to back
Yeah.
as that jungle pick.
Yeah, and they are picking up the bot lane pair, excuse me, that you were suggesting earlier in the night with that Xayah Rakan pickup as a pair that will give them prio towards bot lane, but that also gives Elysium the counter pick. So who knows what's going to happen? I am interested to see what's going to happen in top lane here because the Olaf is gone, and I really don't think the Kled pick was all that influential in the last game. We're seeing a Zeri get picked up, so maybe that's a Zeri Lulu. Another really, really common pick. This entire team composition is actually very much of what we've been seeing in top levels of pro play, especially in the LCK, which seems to only they know the compositions of Zeri, Lulu, and Lucian Nami.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how the bans go, since the Lulu is probably most likely to get banned here. Just because you showed your hand with this area, right? You know that this area is gonna want something like really good support in order for her to actually be able to lane. So I do imagine that the Lulu champion is probably going to get banned here, as well as the GP, which I'm assuming that Elysium's mid laner plays or their top laner, because Optimal really does not want to play against this thing. They banned it in second phase all 3 drafts, so uh, it'll be interesting to see if the Lulu does get banned on Optimal's side here. That is like the most obvious ban, because this Karma still could go mid, but yeah, that would be my guess. I personally wouldn't want to play Karma with Zeri or Zeri with Karma. I would rather just throw the Karma into another lane, either top or mid, if they can play it.
Yeah, actually, it's going to be the Gwen ban coming through, so very interesting. Much emphasis put up on top lane that does keep the Lulu open. Also, very good bans coming out from Elysium. They ban away the Galio to keep away the Galio and Camille combination out of their hands, as well as the pocket pick from Epi, excuse me, of the Mordekaiser going away as well. And it actually looks like we're getting a Silas. That should be a Silas. Oh, I was going to say Silas top lane, but it's actually
No, that's going to be a
good.
Silas mid for sure. And I actually love this pick. You have 2 great ultimates in the Azir and the Maokai. And the great thing about Silas is AP ults scale insanely well with Silas. Specifically because it scales off of his ulti scaling and not the enemy champion's ulti scaling. And Silas ult scaling is insane. His base damage is nuts, and that's why he's always a relevant champion. So I'd like to see what they actually round out this comp top side from Optimal. I'd love to see a Set personally or a Garen, but it's looking like the Kled again. So it'll be interesting to see how Blind Kled goes this time. Now that Jax is banned, it's a little bit harder for some of these champions to actually play the game into Kled. And Kled is one of those champions that you almost never see in solo queue as well. So not a lot of people have a very good idea of what to pick to deal with it. And I do love the Shen pickup
Yeah.
actually. On the side of Elysium, it's really good that he doesn't really care about his lane phase. He's probably just gonna look to our bot lane whenever something happens, and he's just gonna look to play for the Zeri. And it's looking like Elysium just going all in on the Vortex basket. Vortex said, probably in draft, hey, just pick me this Zeri champ. I will 1v9 for you guys. Play for me and shut up.
I mean, yeah, I'm actually really not that surprised. We were talking about it before, but they've been a pretty hard carry. Obviously, their support that they have been playing with is currently subbed out right now. Alec not there, but Vortex is the next highest KP so far on the team in the weeks prior, 41, 8, and 33. So I'm not surprised to see that they're going to be leaning once again into this ADC. But man, that's a really strong composition to put Zeri up really, really early. And if they could do that, if they can keep that Prior on bot lane, they can keep the Hecarim under control like they did in the last game, I could really see Elysium sneaking away a 2-1 victory here.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting to see how this bot side goes early pre-6. Because if this area ever falls behind in this Zyre Rakan lane, uh, it's going to be tough. Because
Yeah.
this Rakan, if he ever gets the charm onto this Zeri and the Azir at around the same time with the knockup, they can just explode before the Shun'ar is even able to come through all the way after the shield comes in. Just because the optimal esports side is so heavy dive and so much damage. So Elysium really has to do a very good job of calling their fights, picking and choosing where they want to take them, and really peeling for this area. It's going to be really tough to find these fights on the side of Elysium, I think, if they ever do fall behind on the bot side of the map.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But we are getting into the final selections here in the league client. So I do want to just kind of round it out with you here because we made predictions at the very beginning. You predicted a 2-0, not a stomp, but a 2-0 over towards Optimal Esports. Obviously not really on the cards anymore after going to game 3, but now looking at the final, games drafts, has your prediction really changed? Do you think Elysium could sneak it out? Do you think Optimal are still in a prime position to take this? How close do you think this is going to be? Give me your thoughts.
I think this is probably going to be the closest on-stream game 3 so far. I do believe this is week 3 for a novice. I'm not too sure if they started a week earlier than intermediate did, but I think this might actually be the closest stream game so far between top teams. If Elysium does sneak this away, I'm not sure if they take first place away. Yeah, I think they actually do tie first place with Reign of Kings still. If they take this away, and it would be pretty insane if they do. I'm not sure if Reign of Kings 2-0'd or not, but if they did, they would for sure take uncontested second place. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This really has been a clash at the top. Pretty much 3 teams here. Rain, like you said, if they do drop a map in their game this week, I do believe if Elysium takes the win here, I think that puts them possibly even tied for first. They're in a position where they could tie for first, they could be tied for second, or they could be stuck solid third. So this game is very, very dependent, but it could completely decide the table going into week number 4. So this is a very important game. I personally, I love a good reverse sweep. I said I was a big fan of the underdogs. I always go for them. I'm also a big stats man, if you couldn't tell. I love reading the stats, and the stats do still go into the way of Elysium. So again, the heart is going Elysium, the brain's going Optimal, but I'm gonna stick with my heart. I'm gonna go for Elysium to slip it through.
Yeah, and you can slap a poster on my face, pull up that meme of Pentanet GG fan with the flag, Wojak, because that's me for Optimal right now. I definitely think that Optimal does have the skills to take down Elysium here, and I'd love to see them do it, so I'm going to go to the side of Optimal because I'm a fanboy, I guess. And with that, we are going to go into the 3 minute spectator delay in about 30 seconds. So we'll see you when we get into game. Hello, CCS viewers and fans. We are back with the third and final game of the series of Optimal Esports versus Elysium Gaming. And we are going to see the stack yet again from the side of Elysium because I guess they think that Optimal is going to invade with a Recon comp, which I don't think they will. So, yeah, we're going to see this again, and this time Optimal is not going for that information word on the red quite yet. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how these early lanes shake out because I do think that if Optimal gets the lead bot side, the game might just be an stinky for the side of Elysium. They might just drop this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think we're gonna be seeing a lot of action over on bot lane, even more so with the Shen pickup as well. So I think that's gonna be our lane to watch. Meanwhile, we are gonna see that ward get placed deep into the top red bush, and we're gonna see a standard leash down in the bottom side of red jungle. So a pretty default setup all around the park. Meanwhile, we're also seeing the same exact route for the Hecarim, also putting a little bit of preference over towards bot lane. So nothing too crazy, nothing too out of the ordinary here to start us off.
Yep, and Hunter Wolfsteel is pathing towards bot side, so he did maybe take a little bit of my advice and is looking to put that Zeri behind and stomp this bot lane out in order for his bot lane to throw a little bit easier in these team fights, because the team fights are tough for the side of Xayah this game. Zeri loves going forwards, and Xayah hates going forwards, so it's just a battle of which ADC is better at kiting backwards this game.
Yeah, I do think we're seeing a lot of trading coming up in the top lane. I am a little bit worried. Elsa playing very aggressively, but a lot of players do always forget how much damage Shen does really early. So hopefully, he doesn't fall into the trap there, but it does find a way to get away from that. Meanwhile, on mid, there's a lot of trading going out. There's a lot of engaging coming out as well from Epi, but meanwhile, there's Azir. The poke potential is just so strong, doing a lot of trading damage as well.
Yep, and we're just gonna see pretty standard lanes here. Boogie is gonna get that Scarl off of the side of Elsa, but we are seeing Hunter finishing up his clear. He is one camp entirely ahead of this Maokai, and they're just gonna trade crabs because they are on opposite sides of the map. It'll be interesting to see if they do go for like a level 3 dive or something on Vortex and Bean Chillin. I don't think it's very likely, but it would be pretty insane to see them do it and pull it off.
Yeah, and top lane seems to be a lot of training going on. Nothing too crazy, though. It looks like it's just going to be pushed in. Meanwhile, over on mid, it does look like Hunter is in a position where they were possibly looking to get a gank onto Azir if they pushed up too aggressively, and might still, but it looks like it's going to be a general clear. Maokai putting a lot of pressure up towards top lane, sitting in a tri-bush right now. Meanwhile, there's actually a big push coming through on bot lane. This Xayah and Rakan have been pushing forward so aggressively, keeping the wave pretty much on the back foot there for the red side.
Yeah, and we do see that neither jungler has reset yet, and Hunter actually is going to get a double crab here. So he's going to be taking the early lead in this jungle matchup, and there's a lot of trading happening bot here, and actually kill Kari here.
There we go. It's the knockup was a little bit off from the Rakan, but it doesn't matter. The damage is there to be found. That is going to be the first blood going over towards Art and the side of Optimal Esports, excuse me. And that is still even more damage going out on the Vortex. Has to hide underneath the turret. Meanwhile, up on top lane, there's a lot of trading. The stun comes through, but it's not enough. The Kled is able to get away, and now Art and Mtato can put some serious damage on the turret and will find the first plate of this game as well.
Yeah, and luckily that Rakan W didn't hit, so that Xayah actually did get that kill, because if the Rakan W did hit, I actually do think he had enough damage to KS that kill there. So very good on the Rakan, actually, that he did miss that on accident. We see Maokai going in for a gank here, and he's going to get this flash, but they're just going to turn.
Oh, the wise old tree does come in, gets a really good stun. They will find one. Zeri gets the first one. Maokai gets the second one. It's a really good response after that first kill on bot lane. And now they should get some prio. Drake is up, so they might be able to maybe get some prio off of that as well. But there is still a Hecarim nearby, and maybe this Azir might push up a little bit too aggressively.
Yeah, and I think that's just a disaster of a scenario for the side of Optimal because they do get that first blood onto the Rakan, or not Rakan, the Karma, sorry, and they just don't ward after, and Maokai just resets, walks down, Humpty Dumpty style, and then flashes on him, and like, there's nothing you can do. He got Xayah flash without burning his own, so Xayah just gets to die. She has to turn because she cannot get away from the Mr. Tree.
Yeah, absolutely. First Drake is up. Meanwhile, we are 2 minutes away officially from Rift Herald, so both main objectives on the map are going to be up and obtainable here soon. Neither side really seem to be prioritizing picking up Drake here. Both have been in an okay position, but neither have really tried to push the subject. Meanwhile, again, we're seeing this exact same lane get played out again, where the Xayah and Rakan are pushing into this lane, and actually look to be taking a little bit of vision up into bottom river.
Yep, they've learned from their mistakes. They're making sure that they get that ward before they push up like psychopaths. And good on them for recognizing which mistake was made and correcting it pretty much instantly. It's not a lot of things. It's not a lot of things that a lot of teams do very frequently. Is adapt on the fly after you do make that mistake.
Okay, we're seeing a little bit of a trade engage coming out from the bot lane, but nothing too crazy. Meanwhile, Drake has been started. Maokai nowhere really nearby, so this is going to be just given up by Elysium. 4 people in the Drake pick are to take it. Both lanes are in a pretty good state for both the bot and the mid, so no real big worries there. And that is going to be first Drake, nice, easy. Though there is a big engage coming out from top lane. Elsa is able to get away, doesn't even lose Scarl, but Maokai is nearby.
Yeah, and it's not really a big deal that that the first strike is taken on the side of Optimal. I think that's to be expected with this comp since the Zeri is really weak in terms of getting the push in this lane. The only downside here for Optimal side is that Hunter is still bot side, and the wave top side is still a little bit boomed on for the side of the Kled. So if he just stayed top there, he probably could have got a kill on the Kled.
That is 2 Emperor's Divide coming out from both the Sylas and the Azir. Hunter is able to come in and negate the damage that was done. Chihuahua takes a lot of damage, though, but Hunter left with scraps left. Both teams trying to get a game. Fled comes in, though, finds the stun, but I don't think they're going to have enough. Chihuahua should be able to get away barely with their life. Nice. No, they won't. The shotgun finds the kill. Meanwhile, Elsa very low. There's going to be another engage coming out from the Sylas. I don't think the damage is there. Grand Canyon barely surviving. Elsa hunting down the kill. Might cost them their lives. They will find one. And that will be their death. That is, I believe, a 3-4-2 into favor of Elysium.
Okay, so now with this, we're going to see some trading bottom immediately. Both R's burned on the side of 80 carries. Rakan R comes out, the Xayah drops, and after that, nothing else happens. And that's just a disaster across the map for Optimal, in my opinion. But we do see Hunter coming in behind. And he is going to maybe look for this Rakan W, and Hunter does get the kill here.
Oh, can they find both? Though they should be able to. Barely. It's going to cost them a lot of health, and maybe... Oh, that will be a kill going over the Vortex. Not quite an execution, so... good. It does clear out the bot wave, excuse me, at least the bot lane in general, so it should give them a little bit more priority. Maybe level out the playing field over in bot, but that is still pretty tragic for Optimal here. And now the gold lead is firmly into the favor of Elysium here, just about half a K up here in the early stages. Meanwhile, Vortex is now 2-1-2. Not quite the 4-0 start that we saw in game 2, but is definitely a step towards it.
Yeah, and after everything that happened, I do think that it is going to be the battle of the top side for Optimal versus the mid and bot side of Elysium. Because all of the gold is on this Kled and this Hecarim for Optimal, and all of the gold is on this Azir and this Zeri. And honestly, I'm favoring Elysium in this situation right now because Optimal's champions that do have their gold don't scale as well as this area and the Azir, so as long as Elysium coasts into this mid game once they get 2 items, I think it's a lot more favorable for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But they do continue to keep the pressure up in the top lane as both Gled and Hecarim are there pushing in that wave. Maokai recognizes that, is there to assist if they try to go for a dive, but they won't. They'll just go and reposture. It looks like they're actually going to try to sneak a little bit of a Rift Herald here, which would be nice. Grand Canyon does spot the Rakan in the bush, so will play a lot more passively. Won't be able to do too much in that position. We'll just do some poke damage, but Rifty should be falling here in the next few moments. And that should put us into a pretty good default state, seeing as both objectives are now down for at least the next minute and a half, roughly.
Yeah, and I do expect Optimal to fight Elysium for this dragon because it's going to be this dragon and the next Rift Herald are the times where Optimal Esports is going to have a slight advantage, at least in terms of power, because their early game champions are online in the early game. So I want to see them actually look hard for these fights and try and get some gold onto the Sylas and the Zaya so that they can get their late game carries back into this game, because right now it's not looking too good in terms of scaling for the side of Optimal. Granted, the Zaya and the Silos are both up in farm, it's not enough to cancel out the gold from these kills.
Yeah, absolutely. Both teams making their way down the Dragon Pit. Both are getting into a pretty good position. That should be Scuttle, possibly being taken by Maokai, but no, I don't think it will. That's going to be a huge engage coming out from the support and the jungler. Chihuahua trying to do their best to get away. They will get charmed, though. So much damage comes through, gets found, gets killed. Boogie tries to get away as well, but can't do it. The Emperor's Divide gets invested. Grand Canyon, though, getting whittled down to size. The counter ultimate from Silas using the Maokai ult stuns both of them. Vortex, the last one standing, has to do the most to stay alive, but can't. Gets run down. That's an ace. 5-0 going into the wave Optimal, and they're going to secure this dragon handily.
Yeah, and it was an absolute disaster for the side of Elysium. Going back into this replay, the engage comes off, and there is just nothing that Elysium can do because the Shen ulti was used on a target where it doesn't really matter. Like, saving this Maokai, I don't think matters too much. And after he goes down, there is literally no front line there because Shen's health just gets immediately bursted. So I think you just cut your losses once the Maokai is cut out and give over the dragon. I think that was maybe a miscom on the side of Elysium, but at the end of the day, Ultimate takes away the ace and the dragon, and they're right back where they want to be. The Zaya is now fed. The Silas is also now fed. So what the issues that they were gonna have before are just not there anymore. Their late game scalers are now online as well, so they can take any fight that they want to at this point in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, only one on their team does not have a shutdown currently, and that is the support. But the Rakan is sitting very happily at 0-1 and 8. Actually, kind of surprised they don't have a shutdown themselves, but in a really good position. Meanwhile, there's a bit of a duel going out over on mid. They try to go in on Grand Canyon, but their teammate is there to support them. They're going to do some serious damage. They're going to have to recall. Meanwhile, here we go. Hunter comes in with a huge ultimate. The Maokai ult gets invested as well. Grand Canyon gets taken down early. Chihuahua as well. Vortex. Oh, sorry. Grand Canyon's still alive. Not for too long. Vortex as well. 5 people on mid. Shen, the last one standing. Ult and a little bit too late. Has to keep the turret alive. But that's another 4-0. And that's 9-0. 9 unanswered kills on the last 2 team fights.
Yeah, and this is just looking like such a disaster. It's going to be like a complete stomp. At least that's what it's looking like. And we're going to go back into this replay and see how this fight actually starts. Elysium ends up getting Optimal to kite back, and then Hunter Wolf Seal is unseen on the flank and gets his R in, which then causes Silas to steal the Azir, and once they get that first kill, it just topples. After that, they just one kill lines up after another after all the ults come through. So very well played from the side of Ultimate Esports to recognize that they do have an advantage there with Hunter on the flank.
Yeah, absolutely. Massively huge coming out from Optimal. They're now in a firm lead, and that's pretty much an understatement, actually. They've over a 6K gold lead at only 15 minutes into the game, 14 kills on the board as opposed to the 7. They took a really rather rough start at times and turned it into a really, really good position for them. And it's just seeming like the train's coming off the tracks. The stitching is coming unhemmed. It's just all falling apart here for Elysium, and here Epi is going to try to go in on the Grand Canyon. Is going to do a lot of damage. The only reason Grand Canyon's able to survive is off of the Emperor's Divide, and that kind of goes into what I was thinking next. Of we still have about a minute into the next main objective, but at this point, I don't even think Optimal need to play around it. They have such a large advantage. They could push to take more aggressive fights, much like this, because they know they're in a position where they could probably win them out quite convincingly.
Yeah, and I think the next scuffle we're gonna see is maybe for this next dragon. I think that Elysium should just give over this Rift Herald. They need a little bit more time to scale up and get their items so that Azir can maybe have a chance at poking before the fight. I mean, maybe they even just give over this next dragon and this mid turret. Because they're just way too far behind right now. They're down at about 7k gold. And all of the carries from ADC all the way to top on the scoreboard are up a sizable amount of gold. Cled's up 1.2 thousand. The Hecarim's up 2.2 thousand. The Silas is up about 2,000 as well, and Zaya's up 1.1. So everybody at least has one full component, not just a longsword, not just like a ruby crystal or boots. Like we're talking like a needlessly large rod on it on all 4 people worth of gold.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of posturing coming out from both teams here, as it looks like we might have a little bit of a duel coming out from mid. M. Tato is taking a lot of damage here just from poke. Meanwhile, Hunter looks like they're actively trying to do something in this position. Meanwhile, the side of Optimum are trying to keep this mid lane push so they can have prio for Drake, but they are running into a lot of opposition. Both teams are pretty much sitting on mid, waiting for the other one to overstep.
Yeah, and just like I said, the Rift Herald was taken away pretty much instantly from the side of Optimal without much of a contest at all from the side of Elysium. So good on Elysium to recognize that they just need a little bit more time to scale. We are going to see the Rift Herald come down. It is inevitably going to break this mid turret, and Optimal is going to turn this Rift Herald charge probably into a Dragon Take. But Hunter will still is looking for an in onto this Maokai, and they're going to look to take the fight here.
Oh, there we go. Double Maokai ult. One from Silas, one from Maokai themselves. So many ultimates getting invested. There's so much damage going around. And actually, Optimum are falling pretty handily. Shen finds a shutdown. A lot of Elysium is left very weak. Elsa comes in, almost full health. Can do a lot to clean up here. Boogie low. Double for Elsa now as they're gonna chase down Boogie to see if they can get a triple. Don't think they can get it. Chihuahua, though, also low. Vortex finds a kill. Brings it to a 3v3. Epi finds one. Vortex trying to do the most. Boogie's still low. Elsa might just be found. Will be found. Vortex now gets taken out. Double. This could be pretty much a 5-for-5 here as both teams are left with only one player standing. Excuse me.
Yeah, and this fight is really weird to me that it happened like this because Zeri was on her own for so long in this fight. As you see the replay coming through, the initial E onto this Maokai, and then a Shen ult instantly, and then Ekron gets a 3-man ulti, but nobody dives in on the Zeri, and Hunter will still just dies immediately, and so does Saya, before anything really happens to the Zeri. And then if you look, Zeri walks super far forward again, and Kled gets the E, but he doesn't keep walking forward on the Zeri. And then again, the same thing happens right afterwards. As the fight goes on, Zeri walks up, she's on her own, and Epi decides to use his EW combo on the Maokai instead of just blowing up the Zeri, which is really weird to me. But even after all of that, Optimal does still secure the dragon. So it is not the end of the world. Elysium is going to trade for this top tier 2, but Optimal, I think, should... I mean, they're going to collapse on this, but I personally think they should also go for the mid tier 2 and trade it from
Yeah,
top
they're
tier
actually
1. But
We're actually getting surrounded in here now. There's only really one means of escape, and it's being closed in on. There's all 4 of them here. Meanwhile, all 5 of Team Optimal Gaming is coming in. The Emperor's Divide pushes them away, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. Here comes the Silas, comes through, does some serious damage, but will get caught out. Isolated, finds one, though, before getting taken down themselves. Meanwhile, Hunter tries to go in, find a fear, will not be able to do too much. Boogie pushes them away. Boogie barely getting away from the knockup from the Rakan, and that's going to be a 1-for-1 trade, though Elysium do get the top turret.
yeah, and I think this is just going to turn into a Baron. Elysium really has no damage alive left. It's just Grand Canyon on his Azir looking to peel him off of the Baron. And he does end up doing it because MX Tato gets so low and they don't want to risk giving over any more gold than what they already have. They want to keep their 5,000 gold lead. Good on Optimal for making the executive decision and not dilly-dallying on this Baron and getting poked out by the Azir. I do really agree with backing off here, so good on them for recognizing it.
I am a little bit concerned here, though, because they did have 2 really good team fights early. They went 9-0 in terms of kills. That put them really far ahead, a 6k gold lead, in fact. And despite the fact that the last 2 team fights did give them some pretty notable objectives, Optimum are still kind of... I don't think throwing is the word here, but they've lost all their shutdowns, including the Silas, which they actually were able to keep after the 4-for-4 in the first fight. But now they lost it after the Silas was kind of isolated from the rest of the team in that last one. So, though they're still ahead, they still have about 5k. They were able to get the objectives, which really helped with keeping the lead. Now they've lost most of the shutdown.
Yeah, and I actually don't think it's that big of a deal, because on the side of Elysium, the person who did end up getting that shutdown was the Maokai, and honestly, that's not who you want getting the 900 gold. That was that kill. On the side of Elysium, you want that on the Azir or Vortex on the Zeri. I think it's actually really bad that it goes to the Maokai, but we're going to see a bit of a scrap come out here. And Elysium is going to be the first team to actually get to this scuffle, but we see Maokai Flash and Maokai ult coming out right after the Rakan W. So Rakan is a little bit caught out right now.
Yeah. Rakan gets taken out. Tato, though, finds a 4-man stun knockup. And that's going to be huge, as it looks like they're just going to get taken out one by one. Grand Canyon getting dove in on. That's a triple for the Xayah. Maybe the Rakan play getting stuck and isolated there was the move after all. Huge play for them, as after all of that I was just saying, they take now a firm lead after another convincing ace.
Yeah, and that's a 5-for-0 ace for the side of Optimal, and they're just going to take the mid tier 2, they're going to take the bot tier 2, and they're going to claim this Baron, and then they're going to turn that 5k gold lead that I said that they wanted to keep, and they're going to turn it into a 10k gold lead, and then after this Baron, it's going to be a 12 or 13k gold lead. So now it's looking really grim for the side of Elysium. They need to find something to get back into this game now, because not only did Optimal double their gold, but they double and a half their gold. They're now up 12, 13k over the side of Elysium instead of just 5k.
Yeah, no, we're now seeing we're getting to the point where we're gonna start seeing possibly full item advantages now in the game, which is quite concerning if you're Elysium here, as you're trying to find anything at this point. At this point, you're not even just trying to find an equalizer, you're just trying to find a foothold in the game, because it seems like every team fight, even when they've been able to get kills, they've at max been able to get trades. You know, the 4-for-4, the 1-for-1 that we saw earlier, they've yet to been able to convert a team fight into a positive advantage that they could then use to take one of the main objectives. So they need to find a fight here. Maybe it's for this Drake, as both teams are posturing for it, but they need to find something here to give them an advantage, because they have been down and out and at disadvantage for pretty much since like minute 5 or 6.
Yeah, and basically what I'm looking at Elysium to do here is to stop walking into their jungle entirely and just look to turtle. You really just have to give over this Infernal Soul. there's not a whole lot you can really do about it. I mean, it's already gone. You're already late, and now they're just gonna take a fight, and this will probably be the end of the game if they lose it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one gets melted. Vortex gets caught out by the Hecarim as well. Another one falls. Grand Canyon can't do anything. And yet again, you've seen it time and time again this game. But Shen, the last player standing, has to do it all, has to protect the turrets. But I don't think Boogie can do anything. They're going to find the first base turret on bot side. And it looks like they are going to march towards the Nexus.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna be the end of the game. It's just completely doomed for the side of Elysium. Optimal that has found that last and final team fight with the Soul and is going to take their 2-1 win over the side of Elysium. And with this win, it does cement them for possibly uncontested second place. And despite these first two games being really close, this third game was just an absolute barn burner for the side of Optimal Esports. He, specifically Hunter Wolf Steel, was like, yeah, you might have beat my Hecarim game too. But game 3, you are not doing nothing versus me. And he just pimp slapped the side of Elysium and took the win. So with that, we are looking to get an interview with one of the players from the side of Optimal, and we will be right back with hopefully an interview for you guys. Hello, CCS fans. We are joined for an interview with Optimal Esports jungler Hunter Wolf Steel 5 and the mid laner, the Epi Champion. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, just we won somehow against all odds, I guess. Definitely wasn't predicting a 2-0 and we got 2-1, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and oh, go ahead, Epi. Go ahead.
I just I'm just trying to I don't know, had better days for sure. I kind of ran it, so it's kind of on me that we didn't 2-0. Feels
Yeah.
bad for Control Alt Elite where he predicts us to 2-0 every week, and then I just have like me or Hunter, one of us just has to run it, so it ends up being 3 games.
Yeah, it's a disease.
Yeah, and it seems to be a disease for a lot of teams that are supposed to do. But my question is specifically towards Hunter himself. I noticed that you ended up picking your patented most played GigaChad Hecarim champ all 3 games instead of dropping it game 2. What kind of didn't dissuade you from locking it in game 3, and why did you think it was good all 3 games?
Yeah, so I didn't going into it, even though what's it called? Elysium was going in 2-0. I said in like my interview that Control deleted that like I didn't think they were a very strong team. I thought they were okay, but I didn't really think they were strong. So going into it, I had a lot of confidence, and after game 2 of last night, which you are very familiar with, Sutekh, I got a lot of confidence to play the Hecarim again. So since we knew they didn't have bans, it was like, fuck it, just pick me Hecarim. We'll win. And I think it looked pretty good all 3 games. Second game, a little bit worse, but we don't talk about that game. That was just a draft gap.
Yeah, that game doesn't exist in my book, so you're good.
Mm-hmm.
And my question, I guess, can go to Epi, kind of along the same line. Sorry, I'm going to talk about it because it did happen. Besides, the draft, because obviously the draft wasn't amazing going into game number 2. Did you guys make any other changes, mental strategy that you were able to rebound from, and that made game 3 a lot easier?
Not really, to be honest. Like I kind of knew we're the better team, in my opinion. So I think as long as we just played our game and stuck to our plans, which was not what game 2 was, I'm pretty confident that we'll just beat them. Yeah.
Yeah, and a support drink, an energy drink, so he was hyped up and ready.
Yeah, and I actually just have the final question, I guess, for the night is I don't know what your guys' schedule is looking like specifically, but I actually think you guys hold uncontested second place as long as the Bing Chillers don't 2-0. Is there anybody that you guys are particularly worried about going up against? I would assume Reign of Kings or Bing Chillers, but anybody that you guys specifically are worried about coming forwards in the next oncoming weeks of games?
Yeah, so I think obviously Reign of Kings and Bing Chillers both have formidable rosters. I think they're also going to be like a top 3 with us, us being first, of course. But I think all 3 of us are known to drop at least a game in our series. So I think it's going to be very competitive. I think they both have their own distinct styles. And I'm always happy to play against Dojos' patented Yasuo jungle. So I'm hoping to see that at the very least.
It was actually Yone.
Oh, he does both, believe me.
Oh.
I've seen the receipts. But I think they're going to be very good matches. If we get uncontested second, that's pretty nice going into it because we'll be able to experiment a little bit more. But I think as long as we keep playing our game and utilizing our players, and like our picks, we'll be good.
Anything to add to that, Epi?
Yeah, no, I think Falston is like the only other like really good mid laner in this league. We've actually scrimmed them in the before the season started, so I mean I'm pretty confident. I think we can take it as long as we play our game and as long as I don't just absolutely grief it.
All right. Well, with that, we're gonna close it the show. I'd like to thank Hunter and Epi for coming in for the interview. Congrats on your 2-1 victory over Elysium. And I'd also like to thank everybody for coming out, and also Soren for being our play-by-play caster, and Shoops for being the legendary hands behind the awesome production of the game last tonight. And we are going to be rating the Bing Chillers Worry Brothers game versus TMG. So thanks for coming out, everybody, and good night.
Peace.
Peace.